Every wise man knows that Mexican women are famous for two things: their beauty and their susceptibility to charm. Watch this. Good evening. Let me guess. You drink tequila. Barman, 2 glasses of talisman. I'm about to wow you with a tequila experience that's going to take you back to your roots. When the talisman does tequila, we don't need salt. We don't need lemons. No fancy gimmicks. What you're about to taste is just the finest agave distilled to perfection. You know, just like your granddad used to make back in old Mexico.
But babe, I'm German.
Whatever.
At least the German wasn't in Argentina. All right.
Yeah.
Talisman tequila, though, you just write that in. It's Kristen Tate's tequila. You can get it if you're in the U.S. Just write that in Google. There's a bunch of different places. Here's the link, but it's a mouthful. Gabriel Spirits Talisman. But you can just write in Talisman tequila and get that. Larry Johnson's on the show. Another fly shirt. Yeah, I've seen you. I've seen you doing with the Carl Van Oates with all the sunsets and whatnot, and going for the Zelensky look today, or
Yeah. I was. I figured I better wear some battle gear since we're talking about the man who committed no crimes.
yeah. Jeffrey Epstein. That's the latest news. Apparently, he didn't exist.
Yeah. This is like that scene from Men in Black, you know, where they're what a flash the light, make everybody erase everybody's memory.
Did you see where Trump was mad that they even brought him up? It's like, dude, you just dropped the case, and now you're like, what? Are you still talking about this guy? Like, that happened today.
Yeah.
You
That's
still talking about this
unbelievable.
creep?
Well, actually, that was that today or yesterday?
Well, I'm on a different day or whatever, but it was, yeah. It was right after his dinner with Satan. And then they're asking, it's him, Pam Bondi. I think Rubio's just there biting his lip. And they asked her a question, and he butts in and is like, why are you still talking about this creep? You know, we've got a flood in Texas. So we've got some very good things, and you're talking about this guy. It's like, oh, yeah, just an international pedophile. Here's the client list, by the way. Everyone asks or says it doesn't exist. Yes, it does. I've had it. I've put it out. I don't know what to do. I even put it on a shirt. I even mapped it out so you know how they connect to each other. And it doesn't matter. They're all acting like it doesn't exist because they're waiting for the authorities to tell them the same thing. And I promise you that's never going to happen. It's the same thing with JFK, RFK, September 11th, like all the stuff they promised. You don't need to wait for the government to tell you what it did. We already have information on all those events. Martin Luther King, too. And it's just people like, they want the mystery. I don't know. Like, I haven't been sued. I'm sitting here naming first and last name billionaires and calling them pedophiles. No one's coming at me because I'm not wrong. But, you know, I want to say this before we get going on all that. I'm wearing this today, and I'm drinking this today because the new Superman is awesome. You know, for the audience, the age range is aimed at. It's a great movie. I saw everyone trashing it online. I went to see it, and now I realize why they trashed it. It's absolutely criticizing the Israeli genocide of Palestine. They call it Bavaria or whatever, and it's this. They even have a guy that's definitely Netanyahu. I won't spoil it. I mean, I obviously know Superman will win in the end, so that's not really a spoiler. But clearly, they are making fun of the government. They talk about military profiteering, clearing people out so they can have real estate in the desert. That's why people hate that movie. It's a good movie. It's got a dog and all that. Kids will like it. You know, Crypto's in it for you Superman fans that know who that is. That's his cousin's dog, actually. But so cryptos in the movie. And yeah, a lot of action, very like Guardians of the Galaxy-esque, good superhero movie if you like superhero movies. But I'm telling you, the reason people are trashing it before it even came out is because it's criticizing Israel without saying Israel, but everybody knows. Yeah, it was very satisfying. I wish there was a Superman to go and destroy all those tanks and soldiers and save the people of Gaza, but there could be. The U.S. could cut off aid and weapons.
Yeah.
This is only in Korea, by the way. So if you're like, where'd you get that? Well, if you fly to South Korea and you go to a GS supermarket, GS, you can get Superman or Batman, actually. There's that. You're going to be running to the theater to see Superman, Larry?
I'm the old guy. I hate going to theaters. I'll wait till I can get it streamed because I can sit here and smoke a cigar and watch it.
Superman wouldn't approve of tobacco, Larry Johnson. Actually, he might. He's a farmer. They grow. Maybe he grows it.
Oh.
This is Clark Kent's. Well, Clark Kent's a farmer anyway. Yeah, I loved it. I thought I'm going to go see it again. I have to go see things before I bring any children to make sure it's not too scary or whatever. So, yeah, we'll be doing that again.
All right, good father.
We need real superheroes. I think that's why those movies are so attractive. Is we wish there was just some violent way to solve problems with evildoers. And you look around the world, we really do have cartoonishly evil villains with people like Netanyahu that'll just shoot children, starve people to death, burn them in their tents, and nothing's being done. And everybody wants a savior, and everyone has this attitude, these QAnon stuff, trust the planners, like, oh, it's coming. No one's coming to save you. Same thing with Epstein. They sat there waiting for a list like a bunch of idiots. And I said from day one, there's no file. It's not like they wrote down all their clients on a notebook somewhere and put it in a lockbox and they found it. That's not how we got these names. The reason
I was going to say, explain how you got the names. I think people need to.
Thank you. Yeah, because you can't do something so lazy like, oh, look, we have the black book. That just shows anyone they knew at all. Everybody in that black book is not a pedophile. And pedophilia was not all of his crimes. They did a lot of white-collar crimes with Bear Stearns and Tower Financial and a lot of money laundering and whatnot, hedge funds and so on. He was a captain of Ponzi schemes. They were spying on U.S. science and technology, and part of that operation did involve honey traps, both of age and underage. And it wasn't just on the island. Every single property he had little girls on it. But most often when that happened, it didn't happen on his property at all. They would bring him to a hotel. And they didn't bring the Johns to Florida or to New York or to wherever. They would bring the girls to the Johns. It's the other way around. So when people are like, you're looking at flight logs of who went to the island and stuff, that is not even close to the number of people that were involved in that operation, because most of them never went to the island, but still were playing the kiddie fiddle. A lot of it happened in New Mexico with the Zorro Ranch. The way you get the names is not some lazy thing about looking at flight logs or looking at black books. Now, that is a data point. Or, they're in a picture together. Okay, that's not nothing, but it's almost nothing, because famous people get photographed and they just smile. That's not evidence. The real evidence comes from the trials. It comes from the victims themselves. And you have statements from the girls getting raped. You have statements from his own employees, not just the pilots, the bodyguards, the chefs, the people that worked in his administration. Some of them ran the massage book. They knew who was in, who was out, who was often he was seeing. You have internal emails between Epstein or Maxwell with the clients. And Epstein is stupid enough to brag about it in some cases, like he did with Jess Staley. He had him pick out a girl, they had a little catalog with them dressed like Disney princesses, and because they don't give their names. So he would say Snow White or Belle or whatever, and that's the girl you selected. And then that would be service to that person. in the lawsuit from Denise George from the Virgin Islands, who was fired over this. Alan Bryan fired her, but the lawsuit went through. Then she got fired, and they meaning J.P. Morgan had to pay out ultimately $350 million, 290 in one chunk in a settlement to victims. So they weren't all on traffic just to Epstein. Okay, they were trafficking to other people, and we have in those transcripts, which people just don't read for some reason, because all they care about is celebrities, Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, whatever. And that was the headline. It made me so mad. Like, those names are in the file in the sense of like they were mentioned. But here's the context. If someone would call and say, have you ever seen Leonardo DiCaprio at any of these dinners? And the girl says no. Well, now his name is in there. If you control F, you can find it, but it means no, we never saw him. Like, but other people like Glenn Dubin or Jess Staley, these people are in there as rapists. Les Wexner, they service Bill Richards. There are some politicians, but it's mostly the donor class. And you do have the names. Those girls, Virginia Giuffre was alive until a couple months ago, and she told you who raped her. And these aren't super famous celebrity types. These are boring people that a 13, 14-year-old wouldn't know, but she knew who they were. And they did it multiple times. And no, it wasn't just Prince Andrew, although he did do that 3 times. And he did end up paying a $16 million settlement. Like, right there, she was trafficked to him and won a court case. So you cannot say there's no list. Like, there's got to be a list of one. There's got to at least be Prince Andrew, because that already had a trial and everything and had a massive multi-million-dollar settlement. And that's in the UK. And that was done in Ghislaine Maxwell's house, because there's a photograph of Ghislaine Maxwell in her house with Virginia and the prince. And why is a 17-year-old girl even know these people at all? And so, yes, they got convicted of that. And he still denies it. He acts like the photo's fake or something. It's not. She was trafficked. She lived with them. Like, why do you little girls living in your house on Rape Island? And so I went through and I listened to the victims, and I went through the court cases, and I looked at statements from his employees, and I read through the internal emails that are available. A lot of them are redacted. There are ways to figure out where that went, though. If you're me, you can sit there and deduce and compare until you figure things out. And then you look at the lawsuits on the money laundering and whatnot, and you can get some more. And then they start telling on each other. They start throwing each other under the bus. That's how you can get a list. And I'm sure that's not the whole list, but there's about 78 names in that list that I'm confident enough to put. And then probably 100 of where I'm thinking, well, but you can't prove. There's at least 30 more. And no one's interested. It's like the girls are telling you themselves, they're still here, a lot of them, and they're saying this person raped me. And that they don't care. They're like, well, there's no photograph or whatever. Like, yeah, there's barely ever going to be photographs. And instead, they just say, they only look at memes. They look at, well, look, Epstein or Maxwell's next to this guy or that guy in this picture or that picture at a party. Well, Maxwell's next to everybody, because she had that Tamar Oceans thing, and she spoke at the UN 9 times. So she would go to those parties and attempt to ensnare anyone she could. And a lot of them were scientists. But a lot of those scientists said they were not impressed. They thought Epstein was a moron. And they didn't fall for the bait, but some of them did. And they went after Tech. Sergey Brin's on that list. Absolutely, he was fiddling kids. And I've talked to the people around him that knew him well. He's definitely on there. There's a lot of people involved also in the modeling industry, because they were helping Jean-Luc Brunel procure the children. And, Brunel went to jail. So there's another guy on the list who participated in it. He died in a jail in Paris. He was procuring girls for Epstein and himself, and they passed him around. And he never got a trial either, because he killed himself while he was in jail, allegedly all on his own.
Yeah. Jail's a dangerous place.
Yeah. It's like, In France, it wasn't like the cameras didn't work or anything like that. They just didn't even have cameras. Like, you left this guy involved in the Maxwell Epstein ring after Epstein had questionably killed himself, and you just left him alone in a cell with no cameras and no one looking at him. I think they just gave him the choice, like, you do it or we'll do it in a horrible way. Like, he was never going to go to trial because too many important people are on this list. And really, if you look,
let me give you
all the same people.
Let me give you a data point. So I don't want to call him my former business partner because it's just we've stopped doing, we sort of deactivated our business, but we're still friends and in contact. My buddy John Moynihan. Moynihan brought a case in 2017 to the IRS tax court against the Clinton Foundation because they had evidence that the Clinton Foundation had not paid any taxes, and it was up into the billions of dollars of unpaid taxes, or the $1 billion of income, and they would have had to pay taxes off of that. And under IRS whistleblower, if you identify a case like that, you get a big chunk of money. And so John's always he's got a knack for finding these kinds of deals. Well, the evidence he collected, he ended up having, I'll say it's the foreign minister of one of the Norwegian countries, I won't say which one for right now, sent him the flight log of Jeffrey Epstein's plane.
Did you mean Scandinavian countries?
Yes.
So no, Norway.
But he got the flight list, and it's now entered into this court case. Well, who was on the plane? Well, there was a guy named Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and James Comey.
Yep.
Is Comey on that list too?
Comey's on this list.
He was, yeah.
Bill Gates and Clinton on the front page.
Yeah. So that just, there's more corroboration of what you found. I will, if I can get at, I'm not sure if that document is still sealed or not, but what the good news is that court case is now, it's going to go to the IRS. Claimed that they never gave serious consideration to this, except John's got 5 different senior IRS inspectors, supervisors, who all said, oh, hell yes, it was a valid case. In fact, what's interesting is shortly after John filed this case, the Clintons went to the IRS and cut a deal and started paying tax. So they've been paying tax since 2017. But
Frank Gustra, who washed a lot of Clinton money, is also involved with Les Wexner and the Bronfmans. Basically, every criminal in Canada is tied to the Bronfmans in some way.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to figure out. So Robert Miller bought a house from Charles Bronfman, and he was a kiddie fiddler. He's now going to jail. But it's too late. And what is he, like 80? He basically, his whole life got away with it. And finally now, same thing with Peter Nygaard. He was like 81. Although they were trying to take him to court, and he would just not show up. It's only when he did it to a couple Americans that they finally could get him. He's in prison. He's done. And he had that big feud with, I forgot his first name. His last name is Bacon. He's a billionaire from North Carolina. He had a big feud in the Bahamas with him. And he worked with Soros and all that. So he's not a good guy either. But it's like sometimes they do fight with each other. But I'd be interested if Frank Gustra gets wrapped up in that. I don't think the Clintons are touchable. Like, they can get away with not paying taxes. That's what when Mark Rich officially, they went after him for tax evasion, and Clinton pardoned him his final hour in office. Right. And Mark Rich was a Mossad man, and he was tied to Russian oligarchs like Boris Berezovsky, as well as Rupert Murdoch was good friends with Rich. So was Pincus Green. Pincus Green was also on the most wanted list, and he also got a pardon from Clinton. People don't remember that. And those two absolutely were involved in human trafficking.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. His lawyer was Louis Libby. Mark Rich hired Louis Libby, who ended up being Cheney's chief of staff. So you got a guy that Clinton pardoned, lawyer, ends up in the Bush administration lying about WMDs and everything else. And Libby was a sick pervert too. He wrote a book about underage Japanese girls being thrown in a cage getting raped by a bear. That was his fantasy. And he knew Joseph Schmitz, the old inspector general, who was his niece is that girl, Mary Kay Letourneau, that got pregnant from a 13-year-old. And another one of his relatives, I think it's John P. Smith, they had to bring a baby into the emergency room. It had human hair wrapped around his penis so tight it nearly castrated the baby. Like, these people are doing some sick stuff. And I mapped that whole thing out too on a chalkboard one time. I was like, let me show you the depravity of the Bush administration. It's not any different. And some of them are the same people, but the level of sexual perversion is worse than pedophilia. Some of this bestiality, like sick stuff. And so Epstein is, I get it. He got caught, and he got caught more than once. He got a sweetheart deal the first time, thanks to Barry Kirscher, who got an award from the ADL. Ding. and John Acosta is saying he's intelligent. So like, oh, gee, I wonder which one. Let's see. He works with Maxwell, whose father was an informant of the Mossad. He worked with Arvin Menashe, who was an Israeli intelligence, who said Epstein works for us. And his story checked out. And then he's financed by Les Wexner, who puts him on the board of the Wexner Foundation, which was created by the Sonneborn Institute and David Ben-Gurion. So I guess it's Iran. It's not rocket surgery. He worked for the Israelis. The U.S. wasn't spying on itself. He was blackmailing and getting compromise on Americans. And all that tech, the Maxwell sisters too, they're actually smart. They made the Magellan search engine, or they had a large role in it. They were stealing secrets right out of the Pentagon, everything. And I have the same feeling I had about the lies about the Iraq War. I could sit here and scream till I'm blue in the face and no one's listening. And it's not as bad as then, because back then I was censored on everything. At least now I have Twitter and Rumble and BitChute. Right. But like, Twitter's the only one with real eyeballs, and it's just not enough. I see all the time, where's the list? And I'm like, it's right here. It's right here. It's right here. It's free. It's up. I put it on a shirt, a map on the shirt, and then just straight up names on the back. And I don't know how to write out, well, how do you know? And I need like several pages on each name. I said, okay, well, you can just ask me, pick a name, and I'll tell you how we know they're on the list. Where's my interviews with Tucker and all that? It's not happening. I can sit down. I did it with Sean Atwood one time in a series, 9.5 hours. I sat there and just tell this guy did this, and this, and here's how we know. But they yanked his YouTube. Yeah, that's okay. It's on Odyssey, and copies are, there's a copy on BitChute. I don't think that is on Rumble. I have to put that here. I don't think Rumble could do 9 hours at that time. It was like limited to 8 or whatever, but yeah, I'll read it.
Was it 9 hours? Was it 9 hours? It was like an
hour and a half show, and then another show, then another show. And what I did is I just put them all together.
All right.
But because if you space them out, they're like, where's part 2? And the way Rumble is, it's like you can't, it'll jump to part 5 and stuff like that. And like, they're in a row, but Odyssey and BitChute will just let you put a giant thing up. I'm like, just hit pause, and then go and listen to the rest of it. It's kind of overkill at a certain point. Like, look, he did it. They worked for the Israelis. They were using women to gather blackmail. It wasn't just there's 4 kinds of blackmail. the one that everyone knows is like do it or else. Like if you don't do what I want this week and your life is over. That's what everyone understands. The second one, most prominent, is it's kind of insurance policy where they're already doing what you want. And this is kind of a reward, but it keeps you from ever being able to leave the group. And it's the case of like when there's an informant in a gang and they're like, shoot this, prove you're not a cop, shoot this guy. And they're like, okay, bang. So it's like, do something so that we know you can never betray us. Like give us something. And so they do. And they're never gonna, but they ideologically in line. There's a lot of Zionists on this list. You're like, well, you don't need to blackmail them. Those people already do everything they want. They just enjoy raping kids. But they do have it in case, like it is sort of like insurance. Like, well, you're never going to say anything. You're now one of the group because you're doing all the nasty stuff we are. And then they pull their money in and stuff. I think that was the case for Leon Black, for example. He gave Epstein $150 million. Do you think he gave him $150 million for advice? I don't.
Yeah.
He could pay anybody and do that.
A guy who didn't graduate, didn't go to college. A guy who was not a certified financial analyst.
The guy that misspelled his own name, writing it on a chalkboard at a high school. He misspelled Virgin Islands. He misspelled the word virgin. Yeah, maybe he was dyslexic. I mean, you can be smart and be dyslexic and just you can't spell whatever. That's probably the case. Because I wouldn't say Epstein was an idiot. I know the scientists called him an idiot, but compared to them, most people are idiots. I think he was a little slightly above average intelligence, but Maxwell is not. Her sisters are, but she was her only weapon was having a pair of nipples and a butthole. Like she just didn't. She could charm, but she was not smart.
She's the female Freda.
Yeah. She opened up her legs quicker than Lindsey Graham. Oof.
A lot of bang. Hey, do you have a link where you can go see the list?
I'll just post it on Twitter again. Actually, yes, we'll do that right now. Or I'll do that. What I'll do that right after the show because I might not be able to find it quickly, but my eyes aren't working. But I repost it all the time. I mean, I'm just gonna make it my pinned tweet or something. I've talked about this ad nauseum, but I'll tell you, other than Sean Atwood, and then like very recently with Myron Gaines, no really large show has had me on to talk about Epstein. I've been on some minor ones and all, but and it's like it's not that they don't know. I know they know who I am and that you can't not know that I'm the Epstein person, but they're scared. And I'm like, yeah, if you have a YouTube, kiss that goodbye. And a lot of YouTubers don't want to lose that. I get it. I say, man, you could at least like retweet it or something. Pretending like we don't have a list is just it's so bad. And the kook movements come too. There's all these people that are like Epstein they faked his death. He's still alive. It's just like the 9/11 people that deny airplanes. Like there's going to be another Alex Jones segment that is against the official story, but then puts out an even dumber story as the alternative. And that's what they're doing. And I can already see that happening with Epstein. And it's always like, they're like, he's alive and living in Israel. And see what they do all in one shot is they say something ridiculous and then they attach it to the anti-Israel rhetoric to make it look like people opposing Israel are all retarded. And that's intentional. Most of the time. Some people just take the ball and run. They hear something dumb. It's disseminated the most because it's got legs behind it. And then all the idiots, the QAnons and stuff, they grab and they go. I love that too. They're like, they're just looking through tens of thousands of tapes. It's going to take time. And I said, they are not looking at any tapes. They do not have a list. That was destroyed the day he was arrested. They did have tapes. They had CDs, which shows you how long it had been going on because they only used CDs to record stuff kind of in the 90s. And then it was all, thumb drives or whatever. You don't need CDs anymore. They had DVRs for like a year and then it advanced. But they were doing it in the 90s. That's where they were on that. They were in the West Wing with Bill Clinton, the first opportunity where he had a public event. I think it was like February of '93. They're photographed there, but that wasn't even their first time. They knew him. Maxwell knew everybody. They knew Trump. Both of them knew Trump. Trump was going around. He had these kids pageants and modeling. He would go after playmates and stuff like that. Guy is definitely lecherous. He's on his third wife, and in front of her, he's telling reporters how beautiful they are. Like, he has no self-control. You look at Obama, he might have been swinging on the other side of the plate, but he had no self-control. Dennis Hastert was blackmailed, not by Epstein, but by the DC madam. She was providing boys and girls, and she got suicided at her mom's house. Funny that. No trial.
Mm-hmm.
She never had an appeal, at least. And she even said, "I will never kill myself," and then killed herself like before breakfast. Yeah, and Cheney was on that list, or his phone number was on the list at least. I mean, why? What was he doing? The DC madam has been replaced. It looks, at least in part, by this new one. It's also in Massachusetts. It's called the Lee brothel case. And everybody there, I have 280 names, and they're all, everyone you look at, it's like a PhD or higher. It's all professionals, and they're aiming at the colleges in Massachusetts, and they're aiming at politicians in DC. Technically, the brothel's in Northern Virginia, but it's DC. The other one's in Cambridge, Massachusetts, not the UK. And there are 3,000 names that they've admitted on the cell phones, but in court, they will only name 290. So, there's other phones that have them. 31 of those I've put out, like gone through, found where they worked, and made sure it's that guy and not someone with the same name. But I put 31 names up. And then I just stopped because what am I doing? No one's going to listen anyway. Like, until I can get on a massive show, it's not worth the effort. It's Menduxi, that's what I say.
Yeah.
But that's the Lee brothel. It's named that because 3 people involved had the last name Lee. They're not related. That's not an uncommon thing. It's a Korean surname. All of them are named Kim, Park, Lee, or Cho or something. They only have like 258 surnames in South Korea. Isn't that wild? There's a reason for that historically, but yeah, that's the case. Now, I know you've been a muckraker for a long time. You were actually in some older films of mine talking about Curveball. One of the defectors that they relied on for bullshit intelligence on Iraq. And that was Tenet and what was his name? McLaughlin, or the Vice guy, whatever. They got reiterated by Judith Miller and the usual suspects. And obviously, it was 100% untrue, as was everything from Chalabi, everything from the INC. And I feel like we're in a George Bush Jr. 2.0 situation with Donald Trump. He's got a bunch of neocons lying about Iran that he said he obliterated. And he just had dinner with Satan. And I'm sure Netanyahu's asked for more money and weapons. Allegedly, they're going to give them B-2s. Are they even sell them or give them?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I'm like, you mean you're going to let them buy them or rent them? Or what? No, you're just going to give them away? $1 billion a piece, whatever. There's no reason to do that unless you're saying, okay, you go strike them. So what is the over under on Israel keeping the ceasefire?
I think they're gonna be forced to keep it because they don't have the military clout to take on Iran. This was one, and that operation had been planned for quite a while. I mean, it was very sophisticated, and you got to give Mossad credit for running an incredibly sophisticated operation. But once they launched it, it then exposed the network that they had created in Iran. And Iran had, what they demonstrated in that 12-day war is Iran could take Israel's air defense system apart. They completely defeated it. And they weren't even using their most advanced missiles, according to Professor Sayed Mohammed Marandi.
Really?
Yeah, so they've got plenty. Now, the Western intelligence estimates about how many missiles Iran has, I think, is it's a swag, the silly, wild ass guess, because Iran produces the missiles underground, and then they store them underground. So unless Israel or some other Western intelligence outfit got an individual that had access, or a couple of individuals access to the inventory, they're not going to know for sure. And it's clear that the word Israel was putting out, and it was being repeated by people like Mike Flynn, is that, oh, Iran's only got like 300 missiles, they're going to run out. Well, my guess would be they've got somewhere over 10,000, 20,000, and they've built some very sophisticated systems, and as was demonstrated, even with their older versions, they penetrated. They did significant damage to Israel. I mean, when you start ticking it off, Iran shut down the only two seaports in Israel, so that therefore no container ships were coming in to offload goods. They shut down the only international commercial civilian airport, Ben Gurion. They shut down the two refineries, damaged those, one's at Ashdod and one's in Haifa.
That's called airtight. We shut down all the entrances. It's called, they locked them down airtight. It's like Lindsey Graham, the short movies he does.
Israel was really in a position. This is why Trump sprung into action and was able to convince Iran to agree to not attack anymore once Iran got its last licks in. So and then they hit the Iranians hit the equivalent of the Pentagon in Israel, the CIA headquarters, the NSA headquarters, and then several key military installations. So with all that as background, I don't see, Israel's going to talk tough, and they may try to do some additional activity, but they don't want to risk having Iran square off against them. Because look, Israel can't even stop the Houthis, and the Houthis are still lobbing missiles in. Now Israel says, "Oh yeah, we're intercepting them all." Yeah, right. Just like Ukraine's intercepting everything.
Do you really think that F-18s just slid off the boat because they had to jerk the wheel, or are they just saving face? I have no idea. Like, is that really possible that you just have to dodge something and the plane slide off the edge?
Well, that's possible if, for example, they had the plane on one of the being lifted to the deck on one of those elevators, and that it was not, somebody didn't properly secure it. Yeah, that could have happened, but
twice.
Yeah, well, and then they lost a third one. Again, they're claiming it was
one in
accident.
The air, shot down by their own defense or something. They said that I can see that screw up, but the fell off the edge of the boat. I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, it just sounds like BS, but I don't know. I want to ask a Navy person, like, is that really a thing that happens?
Yeah, it could be a nice cover story, but in any way, it's an admission that if they use that as the story, it's an admission that they were not able to stop the Houthis. So that sends a message to the world that here is supposedly the most mighty navy in the world, the undefeated, and they can't handle this small country with they've got some sophisticated missiles, but they're not exactly what you'd say cutting edge of 21st century technology. And when a country like that can stand up to the United States, and Trump said, "Oh, they capitulated." I in my mind, when he did that, I had that Monty Python skit where two or three of them sitting there going, "Capitulate? Did you capitulate? I didn't capitulate. Did you capitulate?" Back and forth. Nobody capitulated. So, but everybody else in the region says, "Okay, what have we seen? What have we seen here since the U.S. pulled out into March, 1st of April?"
It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, just the flesh wound, the Black Knight. That they've now
all right, we'll call it a draw.
Yeah. So the United States pulls out, and now they saw that the seemingly impregnable Israeli air defense turned out to be very pregnable. And Israel, that's the first time Israel suffered a defeat like that in its entire history. Because they're used to always doing the quick 7-day win, Yom Kippur. They did get beat when they went into Lebanon. When was that? 2006.
06, yeah.
And they were forced to withdraw because they got clobbered pretty good on that. But those were not big losses. Well, they suffered major damage to Tel Aviv and Haifa. So, I think
I guess you could say they lost the Syrian wing of the Yom Kippur War because they lost Mount Hermon and stuff to Assad's father.
Yeah.
Now they have it, thanks to ISIS.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
Hey, we're back in ISIS. We keep saying that.
I know. I covered that the whole time. Said that the whole time too.
The Sunnis that have been engaged with the terrorism of, go back to the first attack on the World Trade Center in '93. Again, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He was sort of the mastermind in the Al Qaeda, not Bin Laden. But he pulled off all these spectaculars. He really had a mind. Taking out the 2 embassies in East Africa.
His nephew hit the World Trade Center in '93.
Yeah,
Ramzi Youssef.
Yeah. So, yet we were always saying it's Iran that's the terrorists, and here we said that my old outfit at State, the Bureau of Counterterrorism, they just declared that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which since 2017 has been listed as one of the top 10 terrorist groups in terms of attacks and killing people. Never mind, they're not a terrorist anymore. We give them a pass.
That's just rebranded Al Nusra Front. They put women up on the wall, machine gunned their guts to it.
Yeah. So
they did the same thing with MEK in Iran. Mujahideen al-Khalq. They were terrorists, and there was a sunset clause, and they just sort of let them fade off the list. They didn't.
Not only fade, we started helping fund them, and started using them for conducting operations inside of.
That's when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. She did that.
Yeah. Yep. So our tendency in the West to support terrorism but not call it terrorism is.
Jandala is another one. Baluchistani terrorists supported by the United States. Remember the Bring Back Our Girls from Boko Haram? And they never did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then we go also.
Big Mike had a sign.
CIA, Russia insists that the CIA was directly involved with the Second Chechen War. And, and we developed relationships.
Say that.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. But we got onto that first with in Afghanistan when the Soviets, we lured the Soviets in and then commenced forging relationships with all these radical Sunni groups, not Shia. So
Brzezinski and Charlie Wilson.
Yep.
And that was That relationship never died. That's kind of where Bin Laden got his start too. Tim Osman, whatever. Usama, they used to call him. Then it became Osama. I guess they didn't like USA at the front of his name, but they financed the diaspora fighters that went in and became Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. They want to act like, oh yeah, so financing Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, supporting Al Qaeda in Syria, which is ISIS. One before 9/11, one after. But during 9/11, they did it all by themselves, and they had no relationships to any intelligence agencies at all, even though we've caught them. Like you mentioned, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, he had meetings with two of the 7-7 hijackers, Nawif al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar, and the CIA had ears on them and photographs. Yeah. They go and they live in the U.S. Nothing was said. They live with a Saudi GIT agent. They had an informant. Like 100%, they had the information that these people are in Al Qaeda, that met with the leader of Al Qaeda, that they're going to fight schools, that they're plotting something, and no action was taken. Well, there were actions taken. There were actions to squash that information from being shared with different field offices in the FBI. That's an action, but no good action was taken.
Right, because back then there really was no information sharing between CIA and FBI. I know that I got a couple of FBI buddies that were detailed to CIA headquarters, and both are.
That's true, but there were some joint. What do you call them? There was a CIA FBI, like Alex Station was supposed to be both, but it
wasn't.
It was Shore and Richard Blee. That was not. It was all CIA.
Yeah, well, no, there were FBI guys attached to Alex Station. That's what I'm talking about. They were out at CIA headquarters. Mm-hmm. They cooked up that name, Alex Station, and
it's called the Bin Laden unit for everyone else.
Michael Schur's wife now, she was
Queen of Torture.
The Queen of Torture. She was one of the big ones blocking, thwarting, sharing any information with the FBI.
She actually was a little bit worse than that, because not only did she block information from going to FBI HQ, she said she did share it when she didn't. So a way to placate them is like, yeah, I brought that to them, and she never did.
Yeah.
And she just gets promoted and end up marrying Michael Schur, the second director of the whole thing.
Michael and I have had some battles back and forth, because he's, I personally see him as pretty unbalanced, but he, the reason he wound up there was he was a failure as a European analyst, and so they brought him in and to CTC, and he got he got rapidly promoted and given responsibility for items that he had no experience with. And then they, his nickname, I think we've talked about that before. They called him Charlie Manson.
Yeah, a lot of ladies around him he hired.
Yeah, because what he did, he brought in women that had worked on the Soviet desk. So you had all these former, anti-Russian, anti-Soviet ladies that were around him. So, and they did. His nickname was Charlie Manson. So.
Wait till my new documentary comes out, because we got a bit on Michael, and just all the screw ups. When you add all the screw ups together, you got to start asking yourself if this is intentional or if the government's just that stupid.
No, it's just. I would argue it's just that stupid. Yeah, in my experience. In my experience, there's some nefarious stuff that goes on, but in my experience, the explanation of stupidity is the best one usually to go with.
Yeah, it usually is.
I've seen it firsthand, over and over and over, where you think, oh gosh, got all these smart people, and they have to take tests.
Well, I'll give you an example I know you know about. So with the De Geer forgeries, for example, that would take an incredible level of stupidity to not know that's false information when you've got the
Right.
wrong person signing the document. You've got obsolete military seals on the document. You have the date change within the document from 99 to 2000. So somebody had to be smart enough to flag that as bull, and they went with it anyway. That's why I think it's like, I'm sure that got past a bunch of stupid people, but you just need one person to go, no. And I think it's intentional. They're like, well, we'll just blame this on stupidity. But even though we know it's wrong, because it fits our agenda of going to war to Iraq. Do you think they're all dumb? There has to be some purposeful action there. And that's how I see 9/11. A lot of it is incompetence. But there are some people who definitely know better. They just did it anyway.
Well, or I firmly believe that Israel had information, Mossad had information. They knew it was going to happen. But in their calculation, it was better to let it happen because this would get the United States into a war that they wanted, which it did. That you call that another successful operation, which brings us back to the Epstein list. I maintain, some said, oh, Trump's probably on that list. No, he's not. Or if he's on, he was like, he was friends with Epstein years ago. That's for sure.
His donors are on the list.
Yeah. That's the problem.
That's even better.
Yeah. It's not just the donors. You've got a combination of factors here: the donor factor and the intel factor. So the Israeli intelligence, and I would not be surprised, CIA also was benefiting from the various blackmail operations and intelligence collection that was done using Epstein as a front, and to really expose all of that now. I think, that may be, is.
Did you notice the Democrats never brought it up?
Yeah.
Because they compromised themselves too.
Yeah. Well, if they had, look, do you think they would have, if they actually had video and knew that, or had any of these girls say that Donald Trump raped them, do you think that would have stayed silent? Oh, hell
no. No. There was one woman who did, and then she recanted, but they wouldn't try to impeach him, jail him, or shoot him if they already had that on him.
Yeah,
they didn't have it on him.
They could have controlled him.
Yeah, they would have just kept him there. They would have said, sure, put him in. They're not worried about him. Trump's whoever he last talked to. You saw that with we'll stop weapons to Ukraine. Actually, we're going to have to put more weapons into Ukraine. He is just all over the place. It's bad when Kim Jong-un says you're unpredictable and you're crazy.
Yeah,
it's pretty low.
Yeah, there's the old pot calling the kettle black. But I know someone who's met with Trump over a course of last year and a half, and he said Trump has visible. He says when you meet with him, he's not the same guy he was a year and a half. He is mentally. The age factor is kicking in, and the judgment part is gone. And he's he's dangerous now because he's unpredictable. He's erratic, and he's surrounded himself with all these bobbleheads. There's Marco Rubio, and there's Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi, nodding away.
Lindsey Graham nods upwards.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
by the way, we had a shekel chat from PPP man says, "Fuck Lincoln." Also, Trump disappointment syndrome. That's the new TDS. Trump disappointment syndrome.
Yeah.
Look, I supported him only as in better than Harris. I would always say, this guy sucks on Iran. He's not going to keep his promises. But at least we don't have paper straws and male periods. There weren't pride flags all over the place in June. I'll take that as a small W. And he kick men out of women's athletics. So I was like, okay, that's good, I guess. But there's very few things you can point to that he's done right. But there's very few things you can see in his foreign policy that Biden wasn't doing anyway. We still had a war in Ukraine. We still had a genocide in Gaza. 100% Biden would have done the same thing on Iran, like or worse. So, or Harris. Harris is really Anthony Blinken, and Anthony Blinken, not just a client, but part of the operation. So is his dad. So, yeah. They're involved in another ring in France too. I don't want to get in that can of worms, but the Blinkens are filth, and that's who was running the show with Harris. She's a drunk. I mean, who can't either that or she's just she's on something. She would answer stuff with this giant word salad and then just sort of laugh when she didn't want to answer something. Like, ha 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 ha. Someone help me. I can't even listen to her. She's just like, well, it's y'all. That's how I felt. Like, get rid of her. So, okay, Trump better than that. But that bar is pretty low enough to hit McCain in the head. And so we got this narcissistic egomaniac who ought to work at McDonald's. I think he could probably handle that job. I'm not sure. He might get fired from there. But he called Netanyahu the greatest man in the world.
Yeah. Well, what's coming out now is people accuse Trump, he's a narcissist. Well, yeah, and show me any of our last 5 presidents that weren't narcissists.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Obama too.
But it's now so much me, I, and other foreign leaders have picked up on it, man. They say, just get a big tub of butter to go in and rub on Trump's ass, and you'll get what you want. And I think even the Russians were trying that, but I think the Russian patience with Trump may now be exhausted. They are putting the accelerator down on the war in Ukraine. They are rolling the Ukrainians up. They're hitting them every night with massive drone attacks, some missiles. But and the reason they can use drones is because the air defense system is exhausted. And, even Trump, okay, I'm reversing that. Yeah, we're going to send them some more Patriots. You don't got them to send. Just do the math on this. So there are 3 types of Patriot missiles: PAC-1, PAC-2, and PAC-3. They think that last year the production of the PAC-3 missile, that there were a total of 40 manufactured. 40 missiles. We're not talking the launchers.
Wait, just 40?
Yeah,
40. 40.
I posted.
Don't they use like 12 per silo or whatever?
Yeah, well, no. So that's the point. So let's take the missile drone attack that Russia launched 2 days ago. Over 500 came in. In theory, a Patriot missile will fire 2 missiles for at least 2, sometimes more, but at least 2 for every attacking drone or missile. Okay, 500 times 2. Geez, that's 1,000. Okay, the annual production, Lockheed, of all those 3, PAC-1, PAC-2, PAC-3, total production last year was 600. Okay, so if Russia can basically exhaust
out of the U.S.,
2 years of Lockheed production in one night. I mean, it's just the math.
How many do they make? Like, I know Japan makes them for them too. Like globally, how many can they make? Probably
no. That's
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, dude. Now, wow. Hey, Thad, let's the other answer to we sent to Israel with these
the high altitude missiles.
Yeah, terminal high altitude area defense. Those go for so the PAC-3 goes for, I think it's $4 or $5 million a piece. The THAAD goes for $13 million a piece, and they made only 40 of those last year. And again, you're firing 1, 2, or you're firing at least 2 to take out an inbound ballistic missile. So, the United States, and for this reason, Israel does not have an air defense system now that they can rapidly build missiles to replace what they fired.
they put THAADs in South Korea and supposedly for North Korea, and they might be, but China complained that the THAAD radar stretches way into China, and that was one of the other reasons. So it's like super expensive missiles, but it could be the radar itself trying to get early warning for the other types of missiles because they all overlap, and it's called the envelope or something. But yeah, they are running out. They don't produce enough globally. Trump has done the opposite of make America great again. He's made us weak. He's made us much weaker. And so did Biden. I'll just throw that in there by doing this.
And so did Israel. So here's
yeah, really, it's Israel, because we wouldn't be doing any of it without them.
Well, particularly with Iran. So I think Iran started allowing IAEA inspectors to come in and inspect their facilities in 2003. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? It's right shortly after that the CIA then starts giving its first assessment that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. So how would they know that? Okay, well, let's think through the ways that you're going to collect information about Iran's nuclear program. You want to have human assets, people that are involved with the program or provide contract work, maybe cleaning ladies that work in the facility that can provide human information. Or you can go out and recruit one of the IAEA team members to give you stuff under the table, which I guarantee you that's what happened.
That's how they got their addresses. Absolutely.
Exactly. So,
in fact, I'll tell this. That was leaked to me 3 days before the war in Iran started. One of my guys put that out, and they had the papers saying the IAEA is spying on home addresses and stuff. That was out on Telegram prior to the war beginning. That was on the 10th here. So maybe it was 4 days, because it'd been the 9th of June, 10th of June when I got that.
So now what they've done is, because of this attack and the complete discrediting of IAEA, because the Iranians aren't stupid, they've kicked them out of the country. Well, guess what? Now we're blind. We don't have that source of intelligence anymore.
Oh, it's Brewster Jennings all over again.
Yeah.
Because that was, for those that don't know, I'm referring to the Valerie Plame case. One of the front companies that agents used, their job was preventing the proliferation of nuclear weapons, get outed. And it was nothing to do with Joe Wilson and stuff like the media said. The one guy who got it right was Robert Novak, but he died shortly afterward. Wasn't killed, he's just old. But it was. But the American Turkish Council and AIPAC already had that intel. They already knew what fronts the CIA used and whatnot, and they had been warned. But then the whole world knew. And Miller went to jail for 85 days on that because she wouldn't give up her source. Or 80, yeah. Kyle Rittenhouse went to jail for 87 days for nothing, for defending himself. Kyle Rittenhouse went to prison longer than Judith Miller. One is destroying our capacity to track nuclear weapons, no big deal. And the other is a guy defending himself from people trying to kill him, and it's on film. He got acquitted. He got punished more than her. That's our justice system.
Yeah. And you know that Valerie's a good friend of mine. She was in my same training class at the CIA.
I didn't know that.
Oh, you did? No. Yeah. In fact, when I knew her back then, I just knew her as Valerie P. Because we were all undercover, so we weren't supposed to know each other's last names. And
there's a plume too. I never talked to her. I only talked to people who talked to her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, when the story broke that the summer of 2003, one of my other CIA classmates called over because I saw this Valerie, but I never saw a picture, and I didn't make the connection. And he goes, "Hey, that's our Valerie." And I went, "What?" And so when we found that out, I was still in good favor with ABC News Nightline, and so we put together a show where there were 4 of us, her former classmates, Brent Cavan, Jim Marcinkowski, and then a woman who was undercover, who was an operative. And she was on with her face, blacked out and voice altered. But we went on to say, hey, this is claiming that Valerie was some just office clerk is nonsense. It's a lie. We got a little bit of traction with that, but I defended and I knew Joe, but I had met Joe in December of 2002 at the Nixon Center with Dimitri Simes, was running the center then, and he had this seminar for a bunch of us analysts to come in and talk about are we going to be going to war with Iraq? And Joe was there, Pat Lang, who was a friend of mine now deceased, who had been the chief of the Middle East Division at Defense Intelligence Agency, and had hand-carried intelligence to the government of Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War, and set up the Arabic program in West Point. Charles Krautheimer was there, and so that's where I first met Joe. But I didn't, and Joe didn't say, "Oh, hey, I'm married to a former CEO."
No,
never said it. He
I think
didn't
Lang is who also debunked the curveball nonsense too.
Yeah, well, and then Tyler, the big debunker in the agency was the chief of the European division, Tyler Drumheller. And Tyler's dead now. He was morbidly obese and just didn't take care of himself health-wise. But he tried to fight it, and he was shut down. And he was in a senior position, so he was, he tried to do the right thing, but was prevented from doing so.
That's why I say this is intent too. It's not just screw ups. Like they purposely lied, but a lot of it is government stupidity. I got to throw that out there. Like that's usually the answer, but not every time. Yeah. I didn't know that you knew Valerie P. If that's the case. So what I'm doing is I'm just showing an historical example. Like they wiped out our capacity to track nuclear weapons proliferation, so they would have the fog of war to lie about it with Iran. And in this time, since they used the IAEA as spies and they got caught, they did it again. Now the eyes, of course, they have to kick them out. They can't allow that. What all would replace that? I don't think they've left the NPT yet. If they do, they say, okay, we'll join it. We'll join it when Israel joins it. They're keeping that bargaining chip. Could Russia or someone else inspect or would that be acceptable? I don't know.
Well, not to us. No, hell no. I mean, because again, this isn't about the nukes. This is about regime change in Iran. And what so many people don't appreciate is the fact that even when Iran was still holding hostages, American hostages, at the embassy, that Israel was working with Iran to buy weapons. They were selling weapons to Iran. So when the Iran-Iraq war kicked off, and that was under Ronald Reagan, I'm told that a Mossad agent or officer, along with a CIA contact, went in and briefed Reagan and got permission because Iran wanted to buy the wheels for the F-4 jet that they had. That had been sold to them by Nixon. So, now we're talking a jet that's like 50 years old. And Israel, when this last, attack on Iran, we're telling, we blew up the F-4. Yeah, you sold them the damn tires for the thing, guys. They sold them, and that relationship went on until it got blown up with Iran-Contra.
That's in Robert Perry's book, October Surprise. He's talking about Iran-Contra, but that wasn't just about Nicaragua. Like part of the contraband was the Israelis selling spare parts for Iran's Air Force.
Yeah, and the key, why was Israel doing that? Well, Israel was more afraid of Saddam Hussein. Yet Saddam Hussein was our Joe, to use the British expression for their assets. And we had helped make Saddam what he was, and we
sold him pesticides.
Yeah, we sold him the chemical weapons that he was using against Iran. and they estimate that upwards of 500,000 Iranians died in that war, instigated by the United States. And then we wonder why do they hate us? They hate us for our freedom. No, they hate us because we killed 500,000 of their sons, fathers, brothers, cousins. We helped make that happen. And when people go, but they chant death to America. Well, what the hell do you think John McCain was saying with bomb Iran, huh? And the number of American leaders of Donald Trump actually ordering the murder of a senior commander.
Well, why did they put their country next to our bases?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the thing turned to rock. Like, how did our oil get under their sand?
Yeah.
They're flanked on both sides, and you're seeing the same rhetoric as we saw for Iraq. They said they reconstituted their nuclear weapons program. They had not. But Bush said it anyway. And all the who's who neocons kept repeating it. And there was really no, I mean, you're saying ABC Nightline maybe once or twice, PBS, Bill Moyers pushed back a little. There really was almost no resistance, though. Fox, CNN, and the rest of it, rah war. They repeated every lie from William Safire and Judith Miller and Pearl and Fife and all these goobers that these aren't just neocons. It's not just PNAC like Kagan and Crystal. It's people in the government. Like Paul Wolfowitz was in our government. Richard Pearl was the head of policy board in the DOD. They're writing this trash and writing op-eds for war. A former Israeli spy is in the DOD. For some reason, he's allowed.
I knew Wolfowitz. His son and my son went to the same high school, and so there were a couple of times when I was at the high school football game, my son was the manager, and Paul's son was a player. We sat and would talk. But man,
did he lick his cum? He lick at his cum and go. Oh.
Yeah,
he's like a Nosferatu.
Yeah,
but there's another guy who's a liar. Like, I wouldn't say he's stupid. He just lied. He got up there. I think Lincoln Chaffee was giving him the 3rd degree, and he sat there and he lied about lying. Like, dude, you definitely wrote these things and said these things, and he and Ledeen too, Mike Ledeen, they'll just lie about. I never did. That's not what I said. What I said was this. They're like, no. This is what you said. Cheney did the same thing. Yeah. I remember he got called out on it. I think it was on Meet the Press. Maybe not. Or maybe it was in Meet the Press where he said, that Atta met in Prague. And he ignorantly said Czechoslovakia instead of Czech Republic for some reason. Yeah. He's like, I never said that. What I said was, like, he did he verbatim, it's on tape. I don't think these guys were used to like YouTube's existence, that you could record something then stick it on the internet. Because before they could just say whatever, and then a year or two later deny that they said that or twist it a little. Go, well, what I meant was Pam Bondi's trying to do that. She said, I said on my desk for review. Bitch, that's not what you said. You said it's on my desk and there's tens of thousands of hours of tape they have to review. Blah blah blah. And now you say there's absolutely those tapes will never be released. I know, like you jumped the gun. You said that before you got in, and then you got the whip the dog session, and now you're doing what you're told.
It's protecting the intelligence ties with Israel, and it's protecting all these Zionist donors who provided so much money to Trump.
And I think they told him. I think his donors dictated his cabinet. I think Adelson is their point person, and she came in there with a list of like, you're gonna put Radcliffe here, you're gonna hire this, and this, and they ended up with a bunch of Christian Zionists. How else would you get Mike Huckabee any position at all?
Yeah, he's embarrassing.
He's like an Old Testament literalist, which is a special kind of stupid.
And I think you've seen what I've written of late on the whole nonsense surrounding this.
I actually haven't been able to read for a couple of days.
Oh, that's right.
Because of the eye stuff.
just the eschatology that people don't understand and is driving so much of this. But this came to me when I was doing an interview with an Indian. Uh, I'll call him a young man. I mean, he's in his 20s.
Dot or feather.
Yeah, Indian dot. But Giat Tishman is he goes under that handle on YouTube.
By the way, I can get away with that joke as a feather. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but it suddenly dawned upon me that you got about 3 billion people in the world just between India and China that have no clue about this whole Israeli God gave this land to us business.
That's true.
They don't. You've got to. Then when you tack on Korea, I guess
Japan.
Korea probably. Japan doesn't. They're not. None of these are majority Christian or Jewish countries, and so it's only those who've been raised within the milieu of Christianity and Judaism and the Old Testament, the Word of God, the perfect Word of God, and God. It was, I had someone in my blog saying, "You're wrong. God dictated that to Moses." Okay, yeah.
They never heard of Moses.
So, was Moses using a Bic pen or a pencil or a quill? No. He was chiseling it into stone. Oh, okay. God, could you talk slower?
The Old Testament stories aren't actually. They pop up in the Hellenistic period. They claim to be older than they are, but they're not, and they're just copied straight up from older Sumerian myths, Greek myths, and the surrounding area, Akkadian and then Babylonian myths. But Babylon also copied Sumeria, so it sort of goes through. That's where you get Gilgamesh as Noah's Ark and so on. And Moses is a genocidal maniac. If you are a Bible thumper, go flip up to Numbers 31:17. Kill all the boys and the women other than the virgins you can keep for themselves. That doesn't say it like that. It says kill all the boys and all the women other than those who haven't laid with a man. So other than the people you intend on raping, murder them all, not just the men, because they'd already murdered the men. And Moses was incensed. Why haven't you killed the children? And that is Netanyahu. He is following biblical scripture.
Yeah.
Biblical scripture is nuts. And that wasn't a commandment from God. It was a commandment from Moses. Of course, Moses says, yeah, God told me this. It's the same old excuse. But Yahweh is an ancient demon. He started as a storm god he was the god of venom and poisonous snakes. That's why he has the staff. That's also in the Old Testament, the golden cobra. He's like, well, if you come and do this, we'll heal your poison, because apparently Yahweh sent fiery snakes to kill the Israelites who were complaining about hunger. What a guy! What a nice G.
Yeah.
You read it, you're like, I think this is the bad guy. Like, yeah. Every single prophet besides Jeremiah is a murderer. Elisha, Elijah, all of them, they summon bears to maul children. They're always killing kids. They said to take the babies and bash their heads against the rocks. Now they bash the rocks against their heads, like dropping rubble on people. Yeah, they are following the Old Testament, and that's not a good thing. That's why there's a new covenant. That's why Christ comes in and says, this is all nonsense, and don't follow this. Salvation to all through me, and you don't have to believe that or whatever, but like according to their own story, if you're going to be a Christian holy roller, then you cannot quote things from the Old Testament when that covenant was broken because of their behavior, and that's the whole reason God sent himself or sent his son with his information, or however you twist it, depending on what sect of Christianity you're in. Either case doesn't matter. The whole purpose is that he opened it up to all. That's the most famous Bible quotes, John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, and whosoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Whosoever, meaning Gentiles too. And it's through belief in works, not from these Old Testament murdering psychopaths, but through the love thy neighbor as thyself guy. So you're supposed to be opposed to the old Yahweh doctrine. And I don't want to get too theological, but the eschatology, you're absolutely right. Like the majority of the world doesn't know any of that. Never heard of any of these Old Testament stories any more than, people are reading Zen Buddhist koans or something. Maybe they heard the one hand clapping. That's about it. Like maybe they heard of the name Moses the way you heard Confucius or something, but it's not like you're sitting there reading Confucius or you ever looked into Taoism or something. The Chinese would know a minimal amount of Tao. I don't think Americans know anything other than the yin yang, and they call it yin yang, which is funny because yang means penis. But yin there's a big difference between penis and male. But like especially in the West, apparently they have no relationship.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
like they go, what when Ted Cruz is saying the Bible says to bless Israel, like Israel in the Bible is a bloodline, not a nation. It's the bloodline of Jacob who changed his name to Israel, one who wrestles with God. It's not a country. Is that the Bible does not say we need to give B-2 bombers defense systems to Netanyahu. Like Netanyahu changed his name to Netanyahu. He's Polish. He changed his name to Yahoo is the other word for Yahweh, so that's God. And Natan means to serve. So serving Satan, that's his name. And it's perfect.
Yeah. No, this is the reason I always bring that up is that we got to understand how that kind of, if you will, indoctrination shapes how you see the world, how you view the world, how you interact with the world. And when you suddenly come to appreciate that the average Asian does not even, they're not even on the same planet with you.
They think you're insane.
Yeah.
As someone that lived in Japan 17 years, Korea for 2 years, when holy rollers or evangels are talking about their books, Asians are, especially Japanese, they're very polite. Just okay. They won't say anything to you, but they walk away thinking, "What in the world?" I mean, you might as well have been talking about Pegasus and Hercules or something.
Yeah.
They just look at you like, well, I'm looking at the results, and it just seems pretty violent.
Yeah.
So, but that's what Catholicism is. Romanized Christianity. Constantine, he puts a cross on the shields, and they go out and hack people to death. It's I don't on another show. Like those of you who don't know, I know the Bible in and out. And I know that whole history. Maybe I'll do some episodes on that because it really is something that needs to be tackled from these holy rollers that are like thumping Genesis 12 and Numbers 24, saying you have to bless Israel, and Kings also says it a third time. But it is not what you think it means. And you almost have to like make the argument within their paradigm because they won't listen to, well, the book is bullshit, so you shouldn't follow it. That's the real thing you'd have to say. But you got to go through and pick and argue it from in their paradigm. But they absolutely are driven. Huckabee's one of these people. He doesn't believe in dinosaurs, all that. They think that this is a holy book written by the creator of everything, and it wants you to take Palestinians' living rooms.
Yeah.
And the irony is the Palestinians, if you do want to make a racial argument, which I think is dumb, but if you're going to, they are genetically more close to the ancient Hebrews than these trans Semites from Europe.
Yeah, and to wrap your mind around one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, in terms of committing murder.
Thou shalt not murder.
Yeah. But within a few chapters later, go kill them, wipe them out. It's like, and I again, I could see the comedy sketch of the Jewish
It's
scholar
understood.
going,
don't kill other Jews. You can kill a goy all day.
Yeah. Hey, God, you just told us not to kill. Now you're telling us to kill. What's up? Why'd you change your mind? The Almighty Oz has spoken.
Well, people will say it says don't kill, don't lie, and it's like, no, it doesn't. It says don't murder, don't bear false witness, and that's court only applied to other Jews. So you can lie, you can bear false witness to the goyim all day, and there's killing like in war, it's fine. Murder, the premeditated act against other Jews. It even said in the 10 Commandments not to covet your wife, your neighbor's wife, property, and slaves. It doesn't say don't have slaves. It just says don't covet the slaves.
Yeah.
And it's the follow because the 10 Commandments, that's Exodus 20. Exodus 21:20 says if a male or female slave, if you strike them with a rod, they die as a result. you're to be punished. But if they get up after a day or two, you're not to be punished, for they are your property. So you're allowed to own other human beings, and you're allowed to beat them. You're just not allowed to beat them to death, because that would be a loss of property. There's no "thou shalt not own other people." There's no commandment like that. And again, in the commandments, it says, because the 10th commandment's about coveting, you also have to keep the Sabbath day holy. And within that, it says even slaves have to keep the Sabbath day holy, meaning it's acknowledging the existence of slavery. And as long as you keep the Sabbath day holy and you don't beat them to death, it's okay. A person wrote that, all right? No divine being was promoting slavery. And they'll go, well, that was the culture of the time. Like, yeah, I agree. But a divine being is above culture and time. Yeah. And if it's not, then it's not really divine, is it?
Yeah, there you go, trying to use logic.
Yeah, I can't use logic on the book of Exodus. There was no Exodus either. That whole thing's made up. That's the Hyksos Exodus, which happened gradually over time. Nobody was running through the Red Sea or the desert. That is a made-up story borrowed from other older stories. Historically, there's no Exodus. No evidence for it, nothing. All these wars with Joshua and stuff, it's made up. They did not knock down the walls of Jericho by blowing trumpets. But I don't know if that's read to people when they're children and they just never question it again, or what happens. But you get your Ted Cruzes, your Tom Cottons, and your Huckabees that take this stuff literally. And it's like, dude, the story of Jonah and the whale, or Samson or whatever, it's not literal. It's like the three little pigs. The point of the story of the three little pigs is that hard work pays off, and if you're lazy, you're going to pay for it. You're not supposed to actually believe in talking pigs or a wolf that can blow houses down. Right. And that's how a lot of biblical parables are. There is a, some point, some moral lesson they're trying to teach in the story. You're not supposed to take the story literally. You didn't actually live inside a whale, you idiot. But that's what the dispensationalists take it literally. They're like, okay, then I don't know what to say to you. If you believe that, you'll believe anything. Voltaire was right. Yeah, those who become convinced of absurdities will commit atrocities.
And that's the danger we face right now that is driving a lot of our foreign policy.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
Biblical literalists are deciding our foreign policy. And the whole Old Testament is just filled with genocide and rape and the grossest torture, prying the fingernails off the victims and shaving their heads and stuff, and bashing babies in front of their mothers, and cutting up concubines into 12 pieces, and animal sacrifice, human sacrifice. And that's what we're seeing in Gaza. They burn people to death. People getting in line to get food, and they're shooting them. Contractors there to provide the food, and they're putting drugs in the food. It's just, and the whole world knows. And they can't, seemingly, besides Iran and Yemen, they can't do anything.
Standing by, doing nothing.
I like Bolivia cut off trade, whatever, a little bit that helps. But more people need that Bolivia model. It's just no trade with Israel at all. But the U.S. will punish them if they do that.
If Bolivia and Colombia cut off the flow of cocaine into Israel, that might actually create a real crisis.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the cartels are part of the blockade, or the embargo, but that would do something. But yeah, there you go. Cut off the powder. Maybe that'll help. Oh, this little butt tag playing quirks in Tel Aviv. They're all going to Cyprus now. Cyprus is the new West Bank. The West Bank is Cyprus. They went in there with fake passport, because remember, wasn't Netanyahu, he sold himself as, I'm the safety guy, where Israel be safe for all the diaspora. That's whole part of the flooding Europe with migrants, is so you don't feel safe and you'll go to Israel. And now it's not safe.
Well, in fact, what's really interesting is the spread of PTSD among Israeli soldiers. So not all Israeli soldiers are monsters. There's still some with the conscience.
It couldn't be. You'd have to have somebody.
But they're getting out. They're killing themselves. And it's the same phenomena we saw with the Wehrmacht in the early days of the Barbarossa, when they were lining people up in pits and shooting them, Jews principally, and the field commander started writing back up the chain of command, said, "Hey, you got to. This is incapacitating my soldiers. They are, they had no problems going out and killing an armed soldier, okay, but shooting unarmed women and children was something that some of those soldiers still had a conscience and a moral code, and it was causing harm, which is what led them to step up the speed of experimenting with poisonous gas, cargo vans and pumping car exhaust into rooms.
Well, they just found some people that didn't mind doing it.
Yeah.
The Israelis, they found some people that will shoot kids and laugh about it.
Oh, yes. I know. It is the ultimate irony here, where the existence of Israel is predicated on the story of the Holocaust and what was done to Jews by these Nazis. And yet you think that the people that claim that was their suffering, that was their foundational story, would then behave differently. Instead, they're behaving just like the Nazis did.
It's like child abuse is passed on. Usually a child abuser was abused as a child. These people that are at minimum were psychologically damaged go up and set up a state. But these terrorists, they had been doing acts of terrorism in Palestine prior to World War II. During World War I, they were trying to take that land. So it wasn't like it ended up becoming a result of the Holocaust. People finally capitulated to it, but they had been, Zionists wanted that land for their eschatological reasons the whole time and were willing to murder to do it. So they never really changed. The Holocaust just gave them away, like helped them get away with it. Because some of the arms flow to the Haganah terrorist groups that created the Nakba was done through Holocaust charities. And nobody was going to prosecute a Holocaust charity right after the Holocaust. It was career suicide.
Right.
And so they just used that as a money laundering operation and Jewish organized crime. I did a movie on this too. It's called How Terrorists Formed a Nation. And it's like, you'd think with all the disgust, when you see film of bodies in Buchenwald or, whatever, you see emaciated people, you realize not only Jews, all manner of people dead in those camps, including even non-Nazi Germans, were murdered or died as a result of being enslaved at labor camps. Both things happen. And you're horrified. You see the same things with Palestinians who are, already their homes have been bombed. They're in refugee tents and the tents are set on fire. You can see the silhouettes of the children with the flames around them. And that should move you. It doesn't have the Schindler's List music and all set to it, but that should be horrifying. And it's happening now.
Yeah.
See, the whole world did gang up on Germany, but they're not ganging up on Israel. It's like two countries fighting them, plus a little bit of Hezbollah. They're doing the opposite. We're giving them money and weapons, and they call the leader, Satan Yahoo, the best man in the world.
I know.
Trump did that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm going to have to jump here a bit.
On that disgusting note, is there any white pill? One thing I was going to say, I totally agree with your analysis on that they don't have enough missiles. It's not a rational act, and they can't break the ceasefire because Iran will smack them. That's all assuming rational actors. Do they know that they should have known the first time they couldn't bomb Iran, that they had these? What's to prevent that from going again?
Well, they now know. I mean, you've had people, even Ben Gvir, Smotrich, admit that, we didn't think, we didn't think they could hit us like this. We didn't think they were this capable. Well, now they know. And I think one of the reasons
that's rational. They ought to know. But are we taking into account Israeli arrogance?
No.
I'm gonna disagree with you the first time. I think Israeli arrogance outweighs the actual physical knowledge.
I'm agreeing
with
you on that.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I've experienced firsthand. And it is that arrogance that always gets them into trouble.
You tell me a story one time where they you're doing gun safety stuff and the Israelis shot himself in the foot or something like that.
Well, no, I did some training for one of the more religious groups, the Chabad group, and when I sat down to first meet with them, they're pulling their guns out and hey, here's my gun, and pointing it at me. It's loaded. It's like,
wow.
They had no clue whatsoever about firearm safety. And even after some of the training,
did they hold it like that? You were gesturing like this, not this.
Yeah, no, it was. He picked it up and pointed it across the table at me. I was like, "Geez, come on, guys!"
You get hit with the shell in the face.
Yeah, but how the Israeli army trains its guys with sidearms and pistols, semi-automatics, they don't train them to keep a round chambered, because the reason they don't is they admit that the training is so bad that they're not confident that these guys wouldn't shoot themselves if they had a round chamber. So they're just taught to, they draw and then they reciprocate the slide.
The gun was just defending itself.
Yeah. So anyway, on that
listen, that's true. So all right, maybe we still agree. I think they are arrogant enough to break the ceasefire and think they can drag America to save them again. Same as
yeah,
before.
well, they're gonna try that, and I'm going to rule out the possibility of a false flag. To claim, Iran's
see, that's something I wanted to talk about. Oh well, another time.
We'll do that.
I'll be talking with Jeff and Scott about Epstein. I'm being interviewed. We'll be doing that in midnight my time, so in about 12 hours from now, roughly. This is Larry Johnson, Sonar 21. You can follow him there. He's got a Substack as well. You should definitely follow him on Substack. It's one of my recommended lists on my Substack. And until such time, I think I got all the chat. I'll let Larry go. We did have one for 10. Hi, guys. Ryan, you should make a woodshed video of Richard Pearl. Michael Adine died last month. I didn't know that. And Pearl spoke at his funeral. Of course he would. I kind of did make a woodshed. It's called War by Deception. That's basically a woodshed of neocons. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Larry,
send me the list.
I'm going to send you that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you the Epstein list to your Telegram, and I'm going to put it on my Twitter, and I'm going to pin it. There you go.
And I will put it up at sonar21.com tonight.
Absolutely. That's awesome. See you guys.
All right.
Bye
Thanks, man.
chat.
Bye.